They were told they couldn't fly, that they didn't have the brains or the courage for combat. But as American bombers were being shot out of the skies over Europe, their crews started praying for one thing: the sight of a fighter plane with a bright red tail. This is the story of how the Tuskegee Airmen, while battling enemies abroad and racism at home, became legends. In the 1940s, as the world tipped into the chaos of World War II, America was a nation divided against itself. It called itself the world's great democracy, but at home, it practiced harsh, systemic racism. For African Americans, the country they were being asked to die for was the same one denying them basic freedoms. The U.S. military was completely segregated, a perfect mirror of the society it was sworn to protect. Prevailing racist attitudes, backed by junk science and prejudiced reports, insisted that black men were unfit for complex jobs, especially as pilots. They were wrongly labeled as intellectually inferior and incapable of handling the stress of a dogfight. So, while the skies over Europe became a battlefield, whole generation of brave, patriotic black men were kept on the ground simply because of the color of their skin. The injustice of it all was staggering. Civil rights groups like the NAACP and the Black Press launched a powerful campaign demanding the right for African Americans to serve as military pilots. The pressure worked. In 1941, the U.S. Army Air Corps reluctantly approved a radical, segregated training program. For many, it was a program designed to fail. For the men who signed up, it was the only shot they had to prove everyone wrong. The heart of this new program was the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, a renowned black university. Here, on a newly built, segregated airbase, the first class of black aviation cadets started their training in July 1941. The name Tuskegee Airmen would eventually refer to everyone involved, not just the pilots, but the thousands of navigators, bombardiers, mechanics, and support staff, both men and women, who were all part of this historic undertaking. The pressure on these first cadets was unbelievable. They knew the whole country was watching, and that a single mistake could be twisted into an excuse to shut the whole thing down. They were led by Captain Benjamin O. Davis, Jr., a West Point graduate who had already survived years of being shunned by his white classmates and was determined to make this program succeed. Then, the program got a boost from the most unlikely of places, First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. In March of 1941, she visited the Tuskegee Air Field and asked to fly with one of the top black instructors, Alfred Chief Anderson. The Secret Service protested, but she went anyway. After a half-hour flight, she landed and famously said, "Well, I see you can fly all right." Her flight grabbed national headlines and gave the program the legitimacy it desperately needed. Between 1941 and 1946, 992 pilots would earn their wings at Tuskegee. After graduating from grueling training, the 99th Pursuit Squadron was shipped to North Africa in April 1943. But even in a war zone, they couldn't escape prejudice. They were discriminated against by white officers and were often stuck with inferior planes and kept out of major air battles. The real turning point came when the Tuskegee Airmen were assigned to the 15th Air Force in Italy and given one of the most dangerous jobs in the air war: bomber escort. Heavy bombers like the B-17s were sitting ducks for relentless attacks from German fighters. It was the escort pilot's job to protect them, no matter the cost. At first, the bomber crews were skeptical, but that skepticism didn't last long. The pilots of the 332nd Fighter Group, which now included the 99th Squadron, quickly earned a reputation for their incredible discipline, courage, and skill. They became famous for their planes, P-51 Mustangs with tails painted a brilliant, unmistakable red. Soon, stories of the red tails were spreading all across Europe. Bomber crews who were once suspicious now specifically asked for the Tuskegee Airmen to be their escorts. They called them the Red Tail Angels, seeing them as a symbol of safety in the deadliest skies imaginable. The Red Tails were known for one thing above all else: they stayed with the bombers, fighting off enemy fighters with a fierce determination that became legendary. Their combat record was simply extraordinary. Over the course of the war, they flew over 1,500 combat missions. They destroyed 112 enemy aircraft in the air, and another 150 on the ground. They wiped out over 950 ground transport units and even crippled an enemy warship, a former Italian destroyer that had been seized by the Germans. One of their greatest moments came on March 24, 1945, on a mission to escort bombers all the way to Berlin. The 332nd ran into the feared German Me-262s, the world's first operational jet fighters. In a jaw-dropping display of skill, the Red Tails shot down 3 of these superior jets in a single day. For this incredible achievement, the group was awarded one of its 3 Distinguished Unit citations. You might have heard the myth that they never lost a bomber. While that's not quite true, the reality is just as impressive. Official records show the Tuskegee Airmen had one of the lowest bomber loss rates of any escort group in the 15th Air Force. They had proven, without a doubt, that they weren't just capable, they were among the best pilots in the world. For their service, they earned hundreds of medals, including at least 96 Distinguished Flying Crosses, plus numerous Bronze Stars and Purple Hearts. When the war ended, the Tuskegee Airmen came home, but there were no parades waiting for them. Instead, they were met by the same segregation and racism they had left behind. After fighting for freedom overseas, they now had to keep fighting for it in their own country. But their victories in the sky had started a fire that couldn't be put out. Their undeniable record of excellence and patriotism destroyed the racist myths that had tried to keep them on the ground. It became impossible for military and political leaders to justify segregation anymore. So, in 1948, President Harry S. Truman signed Executive Order 9981, officially desegregating the United States Armed Forces. The success of the Tuskegee Airmen was a key reason for this historic change. Their struggle didn't just change the military, it inspired a movement. Their courage and acts of nonviolent protests, like the Freeman Field Mutiny, where officers were arrested for simply trying to enter a white officers' club, became a blueprint for the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s. They had fought a war on 2 fronts. one against fascism in Europe and another against racism at home. They had achieved a double victory. In 2007, the Tuskegee Airmen were collectively awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, America's highest civilian honor. During the ceremony, President George W. Bush gave a salute to the aging heroes, a long overdue gesture to make up for a lifetime of unreturned salutes and disrespect. The story of the Tuskegee Airmen is a powerful reminder of what courage looks like in the face of impossible odds. It's the story of men who were told they were worthless, but who proved they were priceless. They didn't just help win a war. They forced a nation to look in the mirror and take a giant leap toward its own ideals. Their legacy isn't just written in the sky, but in the ongoing fight for justice and equality for all. The Red-Tailed Angels remind us that heroes aren't defined by the color of their skin, but by the fire in their hearts. If you were inspired by this story, please share it. By keeping their memory alive, we honor their sacrifice and continue their fight for a better, more just world. And let us know in the comments what other historical stories you'd like us to tell. Thanks for watching.